they're going to be at Wildwood, New Jersey tonight with the rally, this amazing rally. People have been camped out, I think, for a month, 3 or 4 days. I think it's a Bruce Springsteen concert, a free Bruce Springsteen concert, right? It's near Ashbury Park. No, and we've got, of course, Newsmax TV and the team, Raheem Kassam of UKIP fame. The clock ticks down, Raheem. We got to have our special here shortly. Hey, we got pandemic. We at least we got to do Brexit, right? We've had Megxit. We got to do Brexit. And Jason Miller, and we've got Bill Mcginley, the cabinet secretary in the Trump administration, the first couple of years, on the line. Let's bring Bill in. I want to toss it to you guys. We have a few hours today, 2 or 3 hours of kind of summary. You know, I was both mesmerized and sometimes a little confused yesterday, right? Like I didn't read I thought that the war room memos about what went on. So let's have McGinley. Bill, how do you think yesterday went, and particularly the arguments by Ray and by Dershowitz? Can you give us your assessments?
Sure. Number one, I think that the president's legal team did a great job with the surgeon's scalpel dismantling the House manager's argument for why the president should be convicted and removed on these articles. I think point by point, they used the video evidence, they used the actual record produced by the House to demonstrate that the House managers have basically been conducting a one-sided sham against this president. Each time that the House managers had presented a piece of evidence, the president's counsel were able to pull 2 to 3 clips that were able to refute in the record produced before Schiff, before Nadler, the reasons why their arguments are spurious and should not be taken seriously. I think that Dershowitz did a masterful job yesterday. I thought that he overperformed from, I think, the expectations based on his news interviews, and basically demonstrating here's the constitutional framework, but here's the constitutional standard that could be employed when you're talking about overdoing the results of the 2016 election. And by the way, denying the 2020 voters the choice that they want, which is to vote for this president and reelect him in November. So overall, I thought yesterday was a very good day for the president's counsel.
Let's go back and guys jump in here. The question I've got is do you buy the argument? Do you actually need a crime to have it as an impeachable offense? I mean, isn't when you cut through everything, that is the central argument that Dershowitz is making, that if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit, right? Their OJ defense that essentially there's not a crime you can't impeach.
I personally think that yes, you basically do need to have criminal conduct, but it's got to be conduct that rises to a very high level, right? A traffic ticket is a violation of law. We're not going to impeach a president for a traffic ticket, right? But any other, felonies that rise well above that, yes, they should be the subject. We do not have that situation here. And let me repeat it. We do not have that situation here. The articles themselves are the greatest evidence that no crime was committed. The articles, the plain language, the four-corner read of the articles produced by the House don't say that a crime was committed. And so the House managers start out of the box with an admission that they weren't able to locate a crime to try and use as a sword against this president. I think that the articles fail.
So, Bill, I want to jump in on the political dynamic of this because the Dershowitz presentation, which is something that Reitz and several other folks who've been on the show have made the case that even if there was something wrong, it's still not impeachable. Do you think, from a political dynamic, that message resonated with Mitt Romney, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski? Because really, when we talk about the Dershowitz presentation, in my opinion, that was really the audience. And maybe as you start getting out to like Ernst or to a couple other people who might be a little bit wobbly on a couple of these, do you think it had an impact with those three in particular?
It should have. And here's why. Each of the different presentations are attacking or pointing out the fallacy of different parts of both the articles and the House manager's presentation. I think Alan Dershowitz's presentation was to say, like you said, to those wavering Republican senators, let's take the worst case scenario and let's say that you think that this call was less than perfect. Even if you believe that, we shouldn't be here in the first instance because this doesn't rise in constitutional terms to the level of putting the nation through this divisive exercise of trying to undo an election. And so in that respect, I thought that Alan Dershowitz's presentation was very persuasive and could have resonated with the 4 to 6 Republican senators that the Democrats are targeting.
Let's go. I want to go back to the argument. The abuse of power. You think just the concept of abuse of power is too generalized. If you go down that path, you can always you open yourself up to continual, particularly in this highly partisan age, you will open yourself up to continual impeachments all the time that will not rise to the level of what the framers wanted.
I think that's spot on. And the reason is because if you just have vague, generalized allegations against the respondent, you don't know what you're defending against, right? There's a concept in the criminal law called the rule of lenity, and that is we're going to take every charge, every statutory charge, and we're going to narrow it to the slimmest application. And the reason that we do this is because the defendant or the respondent needs to know with clarity what they're trying to respond to. Just throwing out these vague terms in the articles of impeachment and in their articles. And did we all notice that during their presentation, the House managers were all over the map? They talked about Russia. They talked about other issues. And then they talked in vague terms about the Ukrainian issue. The reason that you do that is because you're trying to create an empty vessel that you can fill in later in your closing arguments. And the law does not permit that. Judges don't permit that. This is something that we need to fight against, because if a president's going to be impeached, he should know with specificity the charges that he is arguing against or defending himself against. These articles, this House manager's presentation did not do that, and it is a due process violation in and of itself.
You talk about things being all over the map, and jump in here, guys. Didn't Robert Ray actually go across his lips that it was not a perfect call? As I remember correctly, guys.
Well, I'm not sure he said it wasn't a perfect call. He said he understood if some people had the opinion that it wasn't a perfect call, and he also did say that the reason the impeachment thing is happening altogether is because the venue for what was said on the call may not have been correct. That's very different from the content of the call being perfect. So I think a lot of people jumped on that, but failed to read what Robert Ray was actually saying, which is, hey, you're entitled to your opinion. It's wrong, though.
So it's not at that high standard. Bill, overall, we got about a minute left. Give us your summary. So your summary, you thought yesterday we're in lockstep, and that ought to hold. McConnell ought to be able to hold the senators for no witnesses, given how it was argued yesterday.
Yeah, but we've talked about this before. Number one, it's a political exercise. So McConnell does have a tall order to keep those 4 to 6 Republican senators in line, especially since the Democrats are running the playbook we've seen many times before, which is when they realize they're not going to get the votes that they need to get what they want, they're going to use unfair surprise at the 11th hour to try and surprise everybody. We saw it in the Kavanaugh hearings. We're seeing it now in this impeachment trial. This is what we're talking about when we talk about the war of attrition. We need to be able to be prepared to fight back, not only on what they're presenting to us, but all of the outside groups, all of the surrogates, and everybody else that they're going to bring to play to put pressure on the 4 to 6 senators. So yesterday was a good day for the president. Today's the day where they need to wrap up the summation and put to bed the spurious arguments that they should have witnesses or that the president should be convicted and removed.
You think they do 2 days of questions? You think there's 2 days of questions you'll see coming up from the Republicans and the Democrats?
Yeah, I think we probably could see 2 days of questioning. And the only reason I say that is because of, some of the unfair surprise that the Democrats are doing. It also depends upon the questions that we see during the first day. What's a little unclear to me is how they're going to structure it. Are the Democrats going to get the first day, or the Republicans the first day, then the other party the second day? Or is it really going to be just a back and forth between the two parties? Also, I don't think you're going to have to submit the questions before the beginning of the question period, in which case certain questions could prompt follow-up questions by other senators. So my expectation is that we're actually going to see 2 days of questions.
Bill, thank you very much. Bill Mcginley, a former cabinet secretary, one of our top legal analysts. Raheem, how do people get to all the information you guys are putting up on the site?
Yeah, the website is warroom.org, and we have a newsletter you can sign up to, www.warroom.org.
Be back in a moment.
War Room, Impeachment. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to episode 138 on day 126. War Room Impeachment, episode 138. Raheem Kassam, Jason Miller. Okay, we just heard from Bill Mcginley. I want to hear the assessment of you two guys of the messaging team. How do you think it? Start with you, Raheem. How do you think it went yesterday?
Slow out of the blocks, much like Saturday, yesterday morning. But then the afternoon, when Pam Bondi and Eric Hirschman came in, you saw a distinct shift, what I like to think of as a war room shift, to take the fight to the other side.
Take the torch to the enemy.
This impeachment was supposed to look. It wasn't supposed to remove a president. It was supposed to harm the president's re-election chances in 2020. As the weaponization of the impeachment process and election, what they've ended up doing is putting front and center on everyone's televisions all over the country, on your radios, in your newspapers, the malfeasance of the Bidens during his reign as vice president. Yesterday, from Bondi and Hirschman, we heard chapter and verse of everything Biden had done, everybody he was involved with. You know, I wrote that op-ed for the Daily Caller last week talking about this Blue Star Strategies group. You heard all of that come out yesterday, and people are going to start asking questions, asking themselves questions, whether they want to support Joe Biden, if they were sympathetic in the first instance, but they're also going to be starting to ask real questions of, hey, you know, these guys have been doing this all along. If Bondi and Hirschman are to be believed, and there's no reason they shouldn't be. Everything they set out, everything they laid out was very factual, very evidence-based. People are going to say, hey, you're impeaching this president over this phone call while these guys were coining in millions off the basis of foreign policy when they were in office. This is backfired now for the Democrats, and I think the Trump defense lawyers have their chance to wrap up today. I think this will all be now focused on for the Democrats how they get out of this with cleaner hands than they went in.
So as a follow-up to that, and I think Raheem is spot on, the importance of the Bondi.
Is this because that was the more tabloidy and easier to understand and more accessible than some of the esoteric arguments, from the constitutional arguments to the arguments about evidence on abuse of power in the actual articles themselves? So it was something you can grasp. I'm not denigrating Raheem's
a tabloid guy.
I know, but that's what,
absolutely.
okay.
I mean, look,
That's what the American people have been waiting for. You finally, the snooze fest is over. We're now throwing down.
Right. I mean, this is Bondi and Hirschman. That was basically the dessert. I mean, everything with Purpura and from Patrick Philbin.
Your spinach. Got to take your some. Dershowitz is your Brussels sprouts.
Patrick Philbin, when he gave his presentation taking down the second article on the obstruction of Congress, Jonathan Turley wrote that he just completely eviscerated it. I got to be honest with you. I think I'd rather go 20 seconds in the ring with Conor McGregor than have to listen to Patrick Philbin for 20 minutes. Like, the brother just puts you to sleep.
Atticus Finch.
But he's good.
Yeah, he's good.
So of course, you know, myself and Raheem and others love the tabloidy part. But here's the important thing. The media wants to go and take this and say, this is all about the general election. How do you beat up Biden? Guys, Joe Biden is dead. I mean, he has no crowds. I mean, Katie Tur is clowning on him on MSNBC.
Third in Iowa, third in New Hampshire.
Hasn't buried lead of buried. Actually, it wasn't that buried. It was the second paragraph. But today's Politico story by Mark Caputo said literally, Joe Biden's been off TV in New Hampshire since the first of the year. Hello, sirens. But here's the importance. This is why the Bondi and Hirschman part was so big. And this is why you haven't seen the complete jailbreak, I think, in the Senate yet after Book Deal Bolton's new revelations. This sent the message that if we go into the witness game, we're calling Joe Biden. We're going to call Hunter Biden. And you send one of ours to the hospital, we're sending one of yours to the morgue.
Right. Don't bring a knife to a gunfight here, because we're getting Biden. How's that going to play for you on global television? Having Hunter being deposed.
Where's Hunter?
Hunter?
Right in the Senate.
Can I play two very short clips for you?
Sure.
The immediate reaction of CNN to Bondi and Hirschman tells you exactly what you need to know about how they did yesterday.
First, I thought Attorney General Bondi did an effective job of showing how sleazy the hiring of Hunter Biden was. I mean, there is no way to dress that up. He was given a great deal of money for a job he was unqualified for, and the only reason he got it is because he was the vice president's son.
That's the legal analyst Jeffrey Toobin,
yes.
Right? Let's listen to Jake Tapper as well.
Toobin's, we kind of flipped Toobin a little bit over the last couple of days.
I wouldn't go that far.
While there is plenty to criticize in terms of Hunter Biden taking that deal and being on the board of Burisma, and even Hunter Biden has acknowledged it was a mistake.
While his father was in charge of U.S. Ukraine policy.
Absolutely, and that is that everyone can criticize that. It's absolutely open to criticism.
It's pretty big from CNN to go straight away and jump into that. Now, they had their caveats, they had their but is this applicable and relevant, and were the facts laid out in the right way? But saying that on national, you want to talk about that? Remember, we've been talking about the clips?
Yeah.
The clips you're
Yeah.
going to show during the election? I would be running CNN clips.
So here's one of the ones I think was important. On MSNBC, Rachel Maddow, she would not show, I don't believe, at least I was watching, she never showed Pam Bondi.
Yeah.
Would not show Pam Bondi. And she went to the Hirschman's, the partner, right? Hirschman, and she had to tee it up with, this is the firm, this firm is the one that represents Trump on his bankruptcies, all the fraud charges, and, the porn stars, the mistresses, and the divorces. This is this guy. And he still was pretty effective in the clip they showed, but she had to tee it up.
They're good.
Exactly. But you can tell they're afraid. They're afraid of Pam Bondi. They didn't want to give her any airtime. And no highlight reel on Pam Bondi last night.
And the clips that they played, the Bondi and Hirschman presentations, I mean, they absolutely just shredded the Bidens. And here's the thing. It made a very compelling case about the corruption in Ukraine. Sometimes we get into kind of the hyperbole and the political dynamics. You realize Ukraine is a pretty messed up place.
Pam Bondi, I think, to me, had the pull quote from yesterday, and she said it in a dramatic fashion when she keeps repeating the $83,000, the $83,000 a month, $83,000, and then she stops. She goes, "That's more than an American family of four with two incomes. The average income is $55,000, boom, in a month." And it's just like, that's a 30-second spot, right? You can cut that right there to counter everything that Pericles of Los Angeles, came up with, right? A shift. This was very powerful. I think Pam's a killer.
Absolutely. So really where we are is this whole thing, Pat Toomey, who is a name that surprised me a bit, putting out there the possibility of this 1-for-1 trade of John Bolton.
Is that a signal back to the White House that they just don't like getting caught by surprise? They think they had this thing wrapped up. They're resting on their oars. They're getting bored. Everybody's coming by Toomey to get the candy. He's got the desk with the candy, the Hershey's candies, right? He's the candy man. And, I'm sure he's not listening to half of this. And yet they got to pick up the page one and see Maggie Haberman lighting them up on this, on the Bolton thing. Is that a message to the White House that, hey, I've had enough of it now?
Oh, absolutely. And they want to see they want to know what all the there is. And again, we said yesterday, not only should they send the manuscript over, they should make the manuscript public. This was created on the taxpayer dime. They should post it to the White House website. Want to point to folks, there's also a front page. I believe it's a front page, but it's prominently featured, at least on the website. I haven't seen the physical copy. Another Bolton leak story this morning. The headline, Bolton was concerned that Trump did favors for autocratic leaders, book says. Basically says that Trump rolled over for Xi and then also Erdogan in Turkey. That's the gist of it. But really what this goes to, the beginning of this whole darn thing. This has been about a foreign policy disagreement from the beginning. Bitter book deal Bolton out there pushing this thing a second day. Haven't seen a Javelin denial about leaking out this second story.
Hey, we're looking Javelin and Simon & Schuster. We called you out again last night, waiting for your response, right?
Right. Yeah, they didn't say that they never spoke with Haberman and Schmidt.
Because they did. They did. Come on.
Of course they did. And their whole thing, if you notice how they craftily
backed the truck up and shoveling that stuff in there.
They put in the statement regarding like online sellers. Oh, and by the way, in the final paragraph, got to give Maggie and Mike credit on this. Final paragraph of today's story, Mr. Bolton's book has already netted significant sales. Shortly after the disclosure of its content Sunday night, Amazon listed the book for purchase. By Monday evening, it was number 17 on Amazon's bestseller list.
Tells you everything in that. Warroom.org, Raheem, is our site. That's the one. Episode 138. We're going to return in just a moment.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Episode 138, live from Capitol Hill, just yards away from where at 1 o'clock today we're going to have the summary and the wrap up of some breaking news. Jason, what's on this whole issue of witnesses or no witnesses?
So John Cornyn, senator from Texas, was just grabbed by some reporters this morning over on the Senate side. Margaret Chadbourne from Spectrum News tweeted out two things. New from John Cornyn, who says additional witnesses are unlikely needed. No worry about disunity in the GOP. We're all talking to one another. I think senators are going to follow their conscience and follow the evidence. The second tweet, though, is the big one. While Cornyn says he doesn't necessarily want to see witnesses in the Senate impeachment trial, he adds that if Bolton is called, he wants the Bidens and Schiff to testify as well.
Kaboom! Right across the bow right there, right?
John Cornyn, this is massive to add in the Schiff dynamic.
Yeah.
This is
John Cornyn, he's not a radical.
No. Remember when I said that send one of ours to the hospital, send one of yours to the morgue? And this is like send one of ours to the hospital. We're going to, vaporize you into 1,000 pieces. I mean, this is to throw Schiff in there from Cornyn. This is big.
Big time. Is CNN got that up on the Chiron yet? That'll be up momentarily, right?
No, not
That's a throwdown. That's a throwdown on Schiff.
But
right there.
why no whistleblower? Why lead?
No,
with,
well, you know why? Because I think whistleblower is more important for the reality of it, but for the optics of it, you just boom. We're going to have your presidential candidate's son in Schiff to the Pelosi and the Democratic. We're putting the Democratic Party on trial. The deep state is it's all that's a backseat on optics.
But this is an important debate point, though, because Steve, you're exactly right that for the political dynamics, this is the thing that's going to force the Democrats to back off and say we don't want to go down this road. But Raheem's exactly right that it's the whistleblower that would actually exonerate President Trump, because once we get that little pencil neck geek up there and people realize we start going through his picture in the Oval Office with Obama,
oh man, it's bad.
Is going to the state dinner with Biden, the fact that he talked in 2017 about wanting to get rid of
There's even more of that. He was a guy targeted immediately as a leaker. This guy's a bad dude.
They start asking all these questions about this guy,
and of course his lawyer.
The Disney princess.
And
here's the thing.
Strange dude.
The whistleblower would not present well in a visual set.
Oh no. That'd be a whistleblower. It leads you to Schiff, leads you to Brennan, leads you to this whole apparatus.
And the Vindmans, all of the corruption within the NSC, their blatant efforts to undermine President Trump, and the fact that this comes back
from
to
day one,
a foreign policy disagreement.
Yeah.
Well, let's just go to the Vindmans for a second. I mean, this Bolton book, Steve, you worked in that complex. When Bolton wants to write a book, and a book he's writing about his time there, who does he have to send the manuscript to get it cleared?
Well, there's a formal process, but you definitely have to send it to the White House counsel's office, NSC branch, which is Eisenberg and Vindman.
Wait, it's Yevgeny Vindman,
exactly.
The brother of Lieutenant Colonel Vindman.
You've also got anonymous. They got all these vipers in there. What's stunning is that they sent a bound copy. They had to send a bound copy because the book's ready to ship, right? The whole question and the whole details, and Jason brought this up yesterday, of Bolton, of the book, of the process of the book, the manuscript, Simon & Schuster, these guys still have not come back and returned volley, have they?
Simple question. Have any of you three talked with Maggie Haberman or Mike Schmidt?
Yeah, yes or no? For Javelin, for the guys at Javelin, for Simon & Schuster, right? Did you, they said, how did they phrase it yesterday? It was so gentle how they phrased it. There's no coordination, right?
Yeah,
we're not looking for coordination. Did you talk to the New York Times? Yes or no? So we still haven't. It's nothing but crickets,
right?
Because obviously they did, right? And this is now today. And by the way, they're going to do leaks every day. The whole thing on the Bolton book is he lights everybody up. He takes down Pompeo. He takes down Pence. He's got Barr. I think the allegation today, the implication today, is that there were criminal investigations going on the ZTE and the Turkish bank. Right.
Yeah. And the exact statement, I just clicked away from it for a minute. They said Ambassador John Bolton, Simon & Schuster, and Javelin Literary categorically state that there was absolutely no coordination with the New York Times or anyone else regarding the appearance of information about his book, The Room Where It Happened, at online booksellers. Any assertion to the contrary is unfounded speculation. That thing is, I mean,
you're throwing challenge flag.
That is, you're doing a pirouette on the head of a pin, like it's just, I mean, it's
yes or no. Answer the question. Answer yes,
exactly.
Or no.
And the answer is yes. Of course, that's something to do with leaking it, and of course, they talked to him and
Haberman and Schmidt would not have been able to get it through the editors of the New York Times, right? Come on, that thing they had to go and basically vouch. They had real sources,
and especially with the scrutiny that the New York Times has received over Anonymous.
Yeah, big time. And this is also they knew this was going to change the direction of the trial. This has been the biggest thing that's actually happened during the trial.
Yeah, there's no way that they're doing this without direct confirmation from Javelin, period, point blank.
Point blank. Javelin, waiting for your return volley. Episode 138, Raheem, Jason, and Steve will return in just a second.
Bannon, Miller, Kassam. War Room, Impeachment. On the John Fredericks Radio Network.
Live from Capitol Hill, where at 1 o'clock today, we'll recommence the defense of President Trump, wrap it up in a couple of hours. Here we've got War Room Pandemic next, and then followed at 11 o'clock by Vox Populi for 1 hour. Special Vox Populi, 888-480-5646 at 11 a.m. today. So you get 3 hours of the war room sunshine, right? We go from impeachment to certain death. Episode 138, day 126. But some breaking news in England, which is going to affect everybody. We got a pandemic coming out of China, and we got a kind of a collapse, like a Chamberlain type collapse in the face of Chinese technology by our mother country. Raheem, this is why you got to get back over there. You leave and the place goes to hell in a handbasket. Boris Johnson is weak. Tell us what happened on Huawei.
So Britain has long now had this cagey relationship with China, Chinese firms taking over parts of core national infrastructure, and there's a reason that the number 2 trend on Twitter in Washington, D.C. right now is Huawei, this Chinese telecom giant, and that's because the British government has said it will allow Huawei, which is effectively controlled by the Chinese state, by the CCP, to build portions of its future telecommunications network, the 5G network that there's been a lot of
5G is the future of quantum computing. It's the future of all technology. It's everything. There's nothing. You've got to control this. And this is not just associated with the CCP. This is the People's Liberations Army Technology and Telecommunications Division.
That's right. The argument from the British
How
government...
did the British collapse on this?
The argument from the British government appears to be that there just simply aren't any other vendors who can provide it with the speed and with the effective cost of Huawei. They're also saying that they will be excluded from sensitive core parts of the 5G and gigabit capable networks, and that there's a 35% cap on the vendor access to that. But last night, lawmakers on Capitol Hill were keen to state that US-UK intelligence sharing, as well as a post-Brexit trade deal with the United States, will be negatively affected by Britain's decision to allow Huawei into its.
Now, didn't Banks and Cheney come up with something this morning? What's happening there in the House?
Yeah, so Adam Credo over at the
Free Beacon.
Yep. He has a new legislation from Congressman Jim Banks, Liz Cheney, and Mike Gallagher would ban U.S. intel sharing with any country that partners with China's Huawei.
That's a throwdown. That's big time.
That is a
big league.
Massive throwdown.
That's big league. This thing's important. So this also goes, we're going to have one of these nights, a special before the 31st, before they go, because you know what this is? This is Singapore and the Thames. This is why it's Singapore on the Thames. This is why they can't be out of it. This is the biggest tell. Everything you want to know about Brexit and why it's going to be a mess under Boris, right? Because he's not going to stand up, is the Singapore and the Thames, and that's what this Huawei thing signals. They got to be part of it.
And just as a little teaser, I was with Adam Credo last night, who informs me there is more to come on this, and more that these lawmakers are going to say about it in the next couple of days. Good. As the British government has made this decision. Good. The big one coming out now, and by the way, I spoke to British reporters about it last night after this story came out. They had no idea this was coming down the pipeline, had no idea of the backlash there was here on Capitol Hill, and now we're going to start focusing on the trade deal element of things, because of course Britain in a post-Brexit world desperately needs a free trade deal with the United States, and the lawmakers are quite happy to throw it back in their face and say, you are choosing Chinese infrastructure in your telecommunications industry. We want nothing to do with you.
This ties into the next thing. This is the party of Davos. This is the global elites, and this is what the problem is with Brexit right now. I don't think, really have a Brexit. The Huawei thing is the canary in the mine shaft on the Singapore and the Thames, which is not what Brexit's supposed to be. Let's go to, and you see it last night in the elites on CNN, and we got the president, we got Ivanka, we got others throwing down on this thing. Let's play that. This thing is outrageous.
It's a great segue, by the way.
Donald Trump couldn't find Ukraine on a map if you had the letter U and a picture of an actual physical crane next to it. He knows that this is, an administration defined by ignorance of the world. And so that's partly him playing to their base and playing to their audience, the credulous boomer Rube demo that backs Donald Trump, that wants to think that Donald Trump's the smart one, and y'all elitists are dumb.
You elitists with your geography and your maps and your spelling, even though
your math and your reading.
Yeah, you're reading, your geography, knowing other countries, sipping your latte.
All those lines on the map.
Only them elitists know where Ukraine is. Sorry, I apologize. But
oh my God!
But you know what? But it was Rick's fault. I blame Rick. But But in all honesty,
Wait,
NPR should
why not? Sorry, hold on. Wait.
Can I tell you
Give me a second? Hold on. So, that was good. Sorry, Rick. That was a good one. I needed that. Okay, so listen. Let's get back to business, dude.
Okay, and the president, let's go. By the way, Rick Wilson, I've got an advanced degree from Georgetown, from Harvard Business School, been all over the world. Rick Wilson, talk about the Rube's Rube, right? This
Talk about the boomer's boomer.
Oh, but this is some homunculus from Tallahassee working with the corrupt.
So his description when he goes on there is that he was an advisor to Mayor Rudy Giuliani's Senate race in 2000. Now, go in the time machine for a minute. Rudy ended up not running for Senate in 2000. And so
note to Chiron writer at CNN.
Right. So but that's the most recent relevant thing that he's done. In 2000, he was an advisor to Mayor Giuliani.
A non-race.
It's so bad. I just don't even get me started on this. And
no, we got to get it rolling.
So the president fired off last night. Don Lemon, the dumbest man on television with terrible ratings. Stephanie Grisham said, wondering if CNN is going to apologize for this arrogant and divisive view of our country. There's a reason trust in our media is at an all-time low. Ivanka Trump dropped the hammer. She wrote on Twitter, "You consistently make fun of half the country and then complain that it is divided. The arrogance, mocking accents, and smug ridicule of this nation's real elites is disgusting."
Wow.
Thank you.
She's as ladylike as you want to get. She very rarely takes out the sword and throws away the scabbard. That's it right there.
But when she does,
that's a hammer.
Heads go rolling.
Heads go rolling. She's absolutely correct in every way she said it. These guys are all about the unity and the country's so divided. That's why the country's divided.
It's the accent, the mimicry of the accent in there, calling them boomers. I mean, Rick Wilson is the boomer's boomer, right? And let's be clear, they're all giggling for 90 seconds about him saying he couldn't pick out Ukraine on a map if there was the letter U and a picture of a crane. If I made that joke on air on this podcast, you'd kick me out of the room. So don't make comments like that, guys. It's funny.
Very funny.
It's extraordinary.
Okay, episode 138. We're going to return Raheem, Jason, Steve in just a moment.
War Room Impeachment. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back, War Room Impeachment, episode 138. We're live on Capitol Hill. Let's go. We're going to have a wrap up here today, starting at 1 o'clock. What's the order of battle you think happens? What should they highlight? And does Pam Bondi come back to do at least some sort of throwdown on the Bidens?
I don't think so. We're going to see Pat Cipollone and Jay Sekulow starting at 1 o'clock, expecting they'll run somewhere in the 3 to 4 hour range. These are the closing arguments for the Trump legal team. I think if they went back to a recap of what they did on Saturday, go and lay out the case very methodically, breaking it down. This is what got them the plaudits. This is what got them the good headlines. Restate it for a different audience on TV. Then we're going to have 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday, of the senator questions, which remember they do the written questions and then they're read aloud. And then Friday that's debate day, 2 hours of debate on each side. And that's when we're going to get to the witnesses, any outstanding motions.
I want to clear up one thing. There's no rebuttal. There was some rumor early in the week that Schiff and these guys are going to get a rebuttal. This is not like a real trial then. You don't get a rebuttal. You go right to the questions.
Right. We have the questions and then we have the debate. There is debate then on Friday. The exact format, the exact rules, a lot of questions about what that's going to look like. Could have our acquittal vote then on Saturday.
But the debate right now is around the 11 tabled motions from the other day, which is all about witnesses and other evidence.
Yeah, and it's going to get specific. I mean, this is everything from now.
This is Book Day Bolton's.
This is all about Book Day Bolton and the push for witnesses. Friday is Witness Day.
I think Pam really should be invited to come back up today, not least because I think it was CBS, ABC, NBC, and even Fox cut away from some of her and Hirschman's arguments yesterday, which was pretty egregious. Also, I'd use the whole time, use the entire time so you could do an apples to apples comparison of exactly how much coverage they're getting out of this versus how much coverage the Democrats got. The Democrats got wall to wall coverage. And all these networks, the broadcast networks and Fox, are cutting away from Pam Bondi.
I did see that, but CNN and MSNBC had Pam Bondi on.
Yeah, they took it
start to finish.
Yeah.
Fox cut away from the
I believe
Pam
so.
Bondi.
Yeah,
Wow,
I believe so.
bad.
And last night cut away as well. You know, there were cutaways during Dershowitz also. There were the panels and conversations and breakouts and all this kind of breaking into the thing. It just never happened when the Democrats were.
No,
up
you
there.
got to watch the continuity of it. That's one
Big
great
guest
Civil War.
coming up. Debbie Lesko will be here this evening for our show at 5:00, and then tomorrow
She's on the team too. She's on the.
she's on the Trump defense team.
Yep.
Lee Zeldin will be back for War Room Impeachment tomorrow morning. So we're going to have 2 shows in a row with Trump impeachment team defense folks. This will be great. Get the real inside scoop.
We're going to have War Room Pandemic. We'll follow this at 10 o'clock for 1 hour. We're going to go through everything, all the breaking news coming from this pandemic from China. And then at 11 o'clock, a special Vox Populi, 11 to 12, 888-480-5646. The amazing thing about Vox Populi yesterday was all the international callers. We had them stacked up. Canada, France, right? Colombia. in Latin America.
So
Canada.
the buried lead here for your co-host is that we have a Vox Populi today from
Exactly.
Wow.
So
hey, find out on live TV and radio.
Bump that lunch back, okay? Raheem, how do everybody get to the blog and everything that's going on? Because you guys are doing amazing coverage.
Yeah, you've got 2 options, warroom.org for everything impeachment related. You also have the pandemic website, pandemic.warroom.org for live updates of everything that's going on with War Room Pandemic. And make sure you're signed up to all the newsletters and everything we offer for free.
Okay, 10 o'clock, War Room Pandemic, followed by a Vox Populi.